Welcome to the session, and topic of this session is significance of project and subject of agricultural project analysis. And basically in this session we are going to discuss about the role of project, particularly in the development of the country, development of a particular sector, development of particular regions, and how they contribute, why the projects are very important. And we will also discuss about the subject of the agriculture project analysis, actually why we need to have the project analysis or agriculture project analysis, what are the requirements for this subject, and what is the importance of this subject of this agriculture project analysis. So in this session basically we will talk about two parts. One is the significance of the project in the development of a society or sectors or regions or particular section of the society, and then also we will discuss about the subject, the region, why there is a need for subject of agriculture project analysis. And basically when we talk about the significance of project in the development, there are 3-4 major functions from the projects. One is they are the development tools. They are the provide the basic information, basic foundation for a development activity in a country. And if you want to have some external aid from the donor agency, from the donor countries, this project concept help to obtain some external aid or some funding. And then this project concept, they are also helpful in the implementing the investment plan, or you can say the country's policies, or we have the different type of plans. So if you want to implement the plans or programs in a country, the project are very much helpful. Then in the last, actually we will see the condition of this subject of agriculture project analysis in the educational institutions. So we will also study that one. And the first and foremost importance of the project is the projects are the cutting edge of the development. They are the building block of the development. So they are very much important for the to bring the development activity or to implement the development activity in a country. And generally the administrator, the authority, they face the major problems in the implementation of the development programs, because if we do not have the proper project, we are properly thought project, proper action oriented project, and with proper identification of resource required, the skills required in the project, we cannot implement the development programs. So actually the projects are very important to chalk out to plan the activities for implementation. So all this information actually we get from the projects. And sometimes we see we are not able to achieve the objectives or goal of the development programs or a particular schemes, and the major cause for this is the poor preparation of the projects. And we are not able to prepare the good projects, we are not able to prepare the sound projects. So this is the prime cause. We are not able to achieve the goal of the development programs or policies. And generally we see we don't have the proper skill to prepare and analyze the project. So poor capacity of our human resource base to prepare and analyze the projects. This is the problem. Sometimes the planners, the policy makers, they do not give proper attention. They do not provide the time and efforts which are required to prepare the good project, suitable project. So they underestimate the efforts or time required for the suitable project or good projects. So this is another problem while developing or implementing the projects. And sometimes the government or the planners or policymakers, they have more focus on the policy formulation and planning. They do not give much attention to the project preparation, and they overlook the fact that development cannot proceed unless specific projects are there on which to spend the money. So they don't take much attention. They do not give. They overlook the fact that the programs or scheme of programs they are implemented through the specific project is very much required to get the desired output. So the result is, when we don't have the proper project, the suitable project, the result is ill-conceived and harshly drawn up the projects. That's why the projects are very important, and actually basic information for the development programs or for implementation aspect is provided through the projects. Then Here we will understand the role of the projects in the overall development of the society, the overall development of the country, and projects are essential for the development of an economies, and the selected projects should have the high priority in the national development program. So when we plan the project, actually these projects should be as per the our policy or the agenda of the national development program. So keeping in view the national agenda or national development goals, we should prepare the project. So that's why and the projects provide the complete information for the country's development activities. So through consideration of all the alternative in the economy as well as sector need to be analyzed. We should, when actually if we want to increase the income or we want to increase the GDP, so we have different sectors like agriculture sector, or we have the manufacturing sector, we have the service sector, and in the within one sectors we have different type of activities. So a complete or thorough consideration should be given to different alternatives while planning the policy or plans. So complete study should be there. So we need to undertake the formal sector studies, like for the agriculture sector we need to have a study, then livestock sector we need to have a study, for fisheries sector we need to have a study. If you are planning for agriculture purpose or we are preparing the agriculture plan, and we want to set the priorities or objective for agriculture development, so we need to have the sectoral study, formal sectoral studies on different sectors like agriculture sector, livestock sector, and fisheries sector. Then the focus should be on the overall development of the sectors, to have a well balanced investment. So if you want to have the project or you want to implement the project on the development of particular sections or particular section of the farm community, like if you want to have some project or overall energized to develop the marginal category of the farmers. So the focus should be the overall development of that particular in the sector. So we need to provide all types of activities which can help them, and so that actually we need to have sectoral studies, and this sectoral studies basically help us to draw a balance between alternatives in instrument activities and the options. So we have different options to make the investment. So here we can draw a balance which sector should be given the priority of how much weightage should be given a particular sector. So through this sectoral study we can establish a linkage between the different sectors, and while we conduct these sectoral studies, it gives the information or it gives the complete picture of the institutional factors also, whether there are organizations or institutions are there for implementation of the project and to support the project. So sometimes based on the sectoral study, there is some suggestion to set up particular type of institutions or to develop some linkages in the different institutions. Then this sectoral study also suggests modification in the government policies. Actually, when we have the data of the grassroots level, the problems being faced by the communities or societies. So through this sectoral study, we can give some suggestions to the government, and actually we can give suggestion to provide some incentive for proper implementation of the program also. And basically, this sectoral studies help in the identification of specific projects, particularly when you study the sectors, their resources, their problems, their means. So this through the sectoral study, actually we can identify the specific project which will be useful in the future while implementing the national development agenda or objectives. Then actually we need to conduct this feasibility studies, and actually we need to prepare the detailed project after actually completing the sectoral study. So we need to prepare the complete project report or complete things for implementation. Actually before implementation we have to prepare the complete detailed project to have all aspects like the objectives, the resources, the different problems, who will be the stakeholders for implementation. There should be some time schedules. So we need to prepare the detailed project before implementing a project. Then these projects also help in taking the investment decisions. So this is another important aspect actually when we talk about the development goal of this country. Actually, there are a number of feasible projects which can be implemented in a society in a particular region. Then there are different feasible projects or implementable projects. We need to give some priorities, keeping in view the resource constraints. So when uh, selecting the final projects for implementation, we need to also see the what are the resources available so we can implement the process. So keeping in view the resources available, we need to prioritize the projects which can be. So for this purpose, and the analytical method can help us in the prioritizing the projects. And but here also there are other considerations is also important while we prioritize the activities or we prioritize the projects. Like sometimes the example is the settlement project and plantation project. These are the two projects which are feasible in a particular region. And but the settlement project would lead to improved income distribution. So there are added advantage when we implement the settlement projects. So it will improve the economy of that particular section. It will increase the income of that's the target benefits of the settlement projects. So while prioritizing not only the analytical methods, we need to keep other consideration also. And sometimes the political decision makers, they are the best judge. They know what are the priority for the society, so they use their judgment also in prioritizing the project. And sometimes there is a discussion whether this funding should be a complete program or this funding should be on project basis. Actually, in a programs we have different projects. So the while fixing the funding or while finalizing the funding, while getting the funding, we can get the funding based on the program for complete program or for a project. So generally when we see the scenario in the world, the external aid to agriculture sector is basically project based. So when we seek the external agency help in funding the projects, so funding the activities, so generally they give the funding based on the project. So actually they prefer to fund the projects in place of the complete programs of development. There are few advantages of this approach when they fund the projects. Actually, there is a discipline in the various steps of project cycle. Actually, when we implement they provide the project funding, so there is a complete discipline is there. There are different steps is there. The lacking project identification, the project preparation, project appraisal, so and then implementation, the monitoring, evaluation. So for each steps there is a fixed time schedules, fixed resource requirement, identifications, and there is a complete chart of all the activities. So there is a complete discipline when there is a project is there. And in the monitoring and control is also easy when we do the project. The supervision is easy when do in the project way. When we implement a program with the project approach, then this project approach is also help in assisting or influencing the country investment strategy. Actually, based on the project idea, based on the information the previous project or based on the project which are being implemented in the other part of the country or for other sections, we can get some idea or influence so that we can identify the best investment strategy, we can prepare the best investment strategy. And this project approach is help in directing the resources toward the specific target groups. So here through a project we can target a particular sections which we want to give some benefit or which we want to improve their conditions. So through this project approach, actually we can target the specific people, a specific target group. And there are some disadvantage also with the project based funding, like it takes a lot of precious time in the preparation and implementation of the projects. So a lot of studies, sectoral study, and so it takes some time in preparing the project. So we can say there is a wastage of time in preparation of the project. And sometimes there is a project funding is there, but there is a disbursement of fund. Sometimes it is problem. There is no proper or timely disbursement of funding in the project approach. Sometimes we find this problem. Then and a number of components are there in the projects, and a multidisciplinary approach is required. It's help in preparation of sound projects. Like in case of agriculture development projects, you can say the social service is also very important, the education also important, the construction of the road is also important, the participation of beneficiaries in a project activity is also very important. So, and sometimes we find that the participation of beneficiary in the project is the most skilled work or time-taking process, to convince the target beneficiary to participate in the activities while implementing a project. So it is a most skilled work, we can say. Then preparation of such project require time and specialized staff while preparing the agriculture project or in specialized project. So special or specialized staff is required to prepare the project or to implement the project. And now we'll move to the subject of this agriculture project analysis. It is very important to have this subject, to study this subject. Actually, the students are not giving proper attention toward this subject of agriculture project analysis. So, not received the required attention from the students on this subject. And sometimes even the teaching institutions are not aware about the contribution of project approach to the development. In the academics or researchers, they are also not aware about the how much contribution they can make by using this project approach, by teaching this project approach in the country's development. So this is the problem, and knowledge of the project is limited to a small circle of the pupils, particularly at the government level. The government officials in the key ministries, they are aware about this project concept. So very few people know about this, the project analysis approach, the project approach, and there is a dearth of the course material in this field also. Very less study material is available in the subject, so this is another problem. And but we see that there is great demand for the qualified manpower for preparation and implementation of agriculture development project. There is a highly paid. These are the person is are expert in the agriculture project analysis. They are highly paid. There is a great demand for such qualified people who can prepare the good project, who can help in the implementation of the agriculture development projects. And large bulk of this growing demand is filled by the technical assistance from the developed world. So developed countries, actually they provide, if there is a requirement, so they provide the technical assistance in preparation of the projects. We take the help of the actually from the technical persons available in the developed country. And in some poor countries, what they do sometimes, they take the technical assistance for implementation of the project from the donor organizations, and they request them to provide some technical assistance, technical persons. And the cost of this project is high as the 25% of the total project cost, and this is not free. Actually, this provision is to be made in the budget is briefing. So this component is also made. This is component is also one of the element of the project budget. Then, so there is a need to increase this subject in the educational institution. We are having this course as a MOOCs in the university also, and the technical assistant to project preparation and implementation briefing is becoming a question of national priority. If we have the persons who can prepare the good project, or who can help in the implementation of project, it is the question of national priority. These people we consider them is a very good person, the intellectuals, we consider them as intellectual. And then sometimes, the organization, the institution, they have a special shell which are being set up for the projects for external finance. So some of the projects, they have a special shells which prepare the good project so that they can get some external finance, external help from the different organizations, donor organizations particularly. And now we can sum up this session like this project are the development tools. They are very important for have the development program, for implementation of development program in the country. And this project especially, they help in the identifying the best projects so that we can get the output, we can achieve the output of the development programs, goal of the, and this project also help in getting the external funding. And the project also help in the implementation, supervision and monitoring of the development programs of the country. And therefore we need to develop the course material and technical expertise on the subject of this agriculture project analysis, or we can say the project approach. Thank you very much.